Let's be present in the here and now. And at this time, if you have a question about your meditation practice or your mindfulness practice, or perhaps a life situation, please jot it down. And as you are preparing those, I will begin with one or two cards from last Frequently Asked Questions Sunday, this giving you some time to write down some notes. And in the spirit of the Question Sunday, I really, really appreciate it a lot because it really helps me to get in touch as director of Temple Buddhist Center to kind of help create programming and to find out what's alive for people. And so in just a moment, I'm going to have Sandy go around and collect these once you've had a chance to write them down. And then Erica, if you will lower the basket once folks have put those in there. So here are a few questions from last Sunday that I didn't get to that also did not have emails, so I was unable to answer them out loud or via email. So this question is, what are your recommendations to deepen our practice, such as books or personal wisdom teachings or prayers or chaplains, things such as this? So it's interesting when it comes to the question, when you take a moment, you can feel the seeking in the question. And the Buddha said that we have everything we need right here, right now for awakening. And so what comes up for me in reading this question is I'm instantly drawn to the seeking aspect or feel of the question. It's so interesting what we take refuge in. When we take refuge in the seeker's job is to seek. And the seeker does it very, very well. And the seeker's job is also to always seek and never find. So no matter what comes up, the seeker will be like, oh, this is cool, and then off to the next thing. So there's nothing wrong with workshops and books and magazine articles and YouTube videos and discussion with teachers. But the first thing that comes up for me is to bring awareness first to that within us that is seeking. And to note that it will always be seeking. That's its job. And to be present with simply the feeling and to simply note that it's always seeking. And to remember the teaching of the Buddha, we have everything we need right here and right now for awakening. So Sandy's coming around to pick up the cards. And we can lower, did you guys already lower it down if you had any from up there? Okay. Oh, just one, okay, good. This next card, taking things personally, perhaps others' experiences that are not mine, or other people's baggage, so to speak. And of course, the short answer to that, and something that my teacher would always bring up, is who is it that's taking things personally? And then I'd respond, well, I am. And he'd be, well, who are you? And then I'd be like, well, I'm Victor. Well, who's Victor? And of course, you can see where this is going. And so about 45, 50 minutes later, I'm a slow learner, I'd be like, oh, I think I see where we're going with this. And he would bring my awareness to my awareness, to my consciousness, which was never born, never dies, And it's not who I am. This body, these feelings, these questions. Who I am is the awareness of those things. So when we apply that to taking it personally, understand that anger is being expressed. It may be looking at you, it may be pointing at you, but it's really just anger being expressed. Other, as Eckhart Tolle puts it, pain bodies expressing anger or joy, frustration, or perhaps excitement. These things are being expressed, even though they may be looking at you and pointing at you, and it may look and feel personal. Everyone, thank you, Sandy, thank you. These things are not personal. Life is not personal. Life is occurring. We are aware when we feel anger. And the anger is not who we are. And in the same way, it's not who they are. It's just being expressed. My teacher used to have a little game he would play. He would challenge me to see the people that I interact with as simply shafts of light or as little children. Not all day long, not every day, just, he'd say, do a 20-minute experiment, a 20-minute exploration. And as you go to the mall, see all beings as if you were in kindergarten. Everybody is children. How would you react if a kindergartner came up and was about the way you parked your car, or the way you rode your bicycle, or the way you said or did something? You'd be like, oh, it's so cute. And I don't want that to be condescending, but it's an interesting practice when you experience all other beings as shafts of light or as little children, and it helps to bring awareness to that that is within you, that is also within them. It's not who they are, therefore making it not personal. Thank you for these. As many of you know, I could spend all day on one of these. So I'm going to try to get through these as quickly as possible and try to give like the short answer. I want to be kind to others, but I'm having conflicts keeping energy. How do I drive out lower energies without thinking I am not being generous or kind? What can I do to heighten frequencies and energy? I love the little Facebook meme that's going around that says, most of us listen to reply instead of listen to respond. And I learned this lesson with my father in his final months as full dementia had set in. It was fascinating because for a while I fought it and I tried correcting him, telling him, no, Dad, we're not at the Hilton, we're at, the nursing home, and I'm not Wilson, I'm Victor. And I tried correcting him on all these things, and that would lead to frustration, confusion, and when it was all over, this terrible energy filled the room, and I would leave feeling hurt, and he would be very upset and angry. And as I learned that it wasn't about the words at all, it was about the exchange of energy. And so I would begin simply participating in what was going on with him. He would think we were at the train station. I'd say, yep, I got our tickets right here. He's like, all right, I haven't been to Denver in months. Well, we're going. I hope you got your jacket with you because it's chilly. He'd be like, I got it right here. And we would have the greatest time, and we would laugh and we would joke, and it was simply about the energy. And what an amazing lesson this was for me, because in a way, that same practice holds with other people that we're interacting with. So I'm having conflicts keeping my energy. How do I drive out the lower energies? In the question, can you feel the resistance to the lower energy? It's not about driving anything out. It's about simply being present and mindful with it. Feel the energy at the same time that we're listening and interacting with people. And I'm not sure what the context is, but let's go ahead and jump to politics. And let's say that we're interacting with someone and politics comes up and you're feeling this energy. And so just being present with the energy and just noting it, not needing to drive it out, not needing to change their mind. Just feel the energy of expression. In the same way, it's probably just being fear that's expressed, and you don't have to do anything about it. Presence does all the work by itself. To simply be fully present with another human being is oftentimes all it takes. And they may not recognize it in that moment, but 10 minutes down the road, they'll be like, wow, I really enjoyed speaking with him or her. Because they listened, they truly listened. And sometimes when people share things that may be divisive, it may be simply for your reaction. They're used to this. They're expecting this. This is what makes their ego or their pain body feel alive and real. But when you're present with them and simply feeling what comes up in you, and at the time, if a response is needed, you can respond from a compassionate place with your heart, simply acknowledging what they said, not agreeing, not disagreeing, not fighting, not tearing at the world. It can be transformative for them. Trying to change their mind, trying to change their opinion, that's just intellects bashing heads with each other. That's all that most of the population is doing now, the red and the blue. The Republicans and the Democrats, the donkeys and the elephants, taking sides. But when you're fully present with another shaft of light, with another human being, it can be transformative. Creating more teachings on mindfulness practice. Would love reading great books as a Sangha and then having a few Sundays on each. Just have to be in a place that makes your heart sing. This place is part of what makes my heart sing. Yes, I totally agree. And I actually will be starting a book study this fall. I'll be beginning with The 4 Foundations of Mindfulness by Bhante Henepola Gudaratana, who is at the head of my lineage. And so we'll be beginning this fall with that. And whether we bring that into Sundays or not, I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of sitting with that. But we'll definitely be doing a book study. So thank you for that. Would you provide a Buddhist perspective on feeling responsible for adult family members who have chosen not to become financially self-sufficient? What comes to mind is that 42-year-old living in the basement playing video games and waiting for the laundry to get done. Excuse me, that was me. No. One of the best teachings that I ever received on this had to do with panhandlers. And I would go to my teacher and say, oh my gosh, I saw this guy sleeping on the bench and I felt so sorry for him and thought, my God, what horrible things had to have happened to this person, or must they have done to reach this low point in their life? And my teacher was like, judgment, judgment, judgment. And I'm like, well, yeah, look at him. I mean, sleeping on a bench in dirty old clothes. And he's like, you have no idea what their soul's journey is. But in your mind, you've created what you think their soul's journey should be. Judgment, judgment, judgment. And so what comes up for me in reading this, we don't know what another soul's journey is. And I understand the spirit of the question, because things like questions come up. Am I enabling? Should I boot them to the curb? Or if it's an adult, like maybe an older family member, maybe it's time for them to go to a home or something like that. And this is all a lot of head conversations. And one of the teachings that I received early was that your head will always lie to you and your body never will. So I return to feeling into this. Being present. When you future, it's like, oh my God, this person's going to be in my house the next 30 years. That's futuring. We don't know the future. When we get wrapped up in our head in judgments, we start trying to figure out, well, is this person should leave or should not leave, or boot them to the curb or what? And all of this is trying and efforting and struggling. And as Jack Kornfield put it, it's the war within. And so what comes up for me is relaxing into this, sensing and feeling, what is your truth? It's not about this person living in your basement or living in your attic or in the garage, in the little room above the garage. It's about your truth. If a button is getting pushed, guess what? You have a button. So we sink into that. What is the button that is getting pushed? We go in and we search for that. And as we look deeper into truth, perhaps we discover a feeling that maybe this person is not pulling their own weight. And in classic Byron Katie fashion, we flip that. Who is it that's not pulling their own weight? And what we find is a deeper truth within ourselves, looking at in what ways are we not pulling our own weight. And maybe that means having discussions with this person. What's true for you? What's coming up for you? Follow your truth instead of trying to figure out somebody else's truth. What arises for you, and then let the divine masculine move you to encouraging, to directing, clarity. Let clarity arise for you in what needs to be done for you. And then take action. And then, if the action you take is correct, you'll feel it, you'll sense it. If it's not, you can always stop and try something else. But the energy is in here, not in the other person. My practice is 30 minutes to 1 hour daily. Is daily more important? Should I move to longer sits or 3 hours or a workshop only, or for example, 3 hours? And remember, practice is cumulative. So it's not that 15 minutes here or 3 hours there. It's cumulative. It's all practice. It's the 1 minute rejoicing at a stoplight. Yes, I have a minute to breathe. It's moving in resonance. If you feel moved to a longer sit, then sit longer. If you feel moved to sit for a week-long silent retreat, then you move in that direction. You'll know after 2.5 hours, if your body begins aching and paining, then you'll be moved to stand or to walk or to lie down. Allow the practice to move you. There is no right or wrong way to do it, but you can approach it with a playful curiosity and move towards the practice. See what it's like to sit for an hour. Rejoice in a 1 minute sit, a 15-minute sit. Walking meditation, driving meditation, driving, being a gentle driver, and noticing as the people who are coming up behind you very, very quickly, notice that moment that you want to close the gap and just saying, no, I think this time I'm going to slow down and allow them room to move in. It all becomes meditation. Thoughts on action regarding the situation with children being separated from their parents. And what would the Buddha do? And I don't know if you were here for my talk, 2 weeks ago, but I was tremendously moved by this policy and this practice. And I provided information at the back and can do so again on various organizations such as the Immigration Legal Fund and Better Angels, which is an organization that are taking legal action to stop and halt this practice. So the step one is to feel it. Yeah. Because our normal modus operandi would be to get busy, cover up the emotions, cover up the feelings. Step one, go in and feel what that's like, to know that we are actually taking children away from their mothers and their fathers. That's the problem. No one's feeling anything anymore. When we feel it, we establish a higher consciousness, a higher vibration. And from that place, we purify the grief, we purify the sadness. The Buddhist path is one of purification. The Buddhist path is one of wisdom. Wisdom is in the body, not in the head. So we purify this grief. We purify this sadness, and what arises is compassion for all players in this scenario. The mothers, the fathers, the children, the guards who are taking these babies from their mother's arms, the policy makers who think this is effective because they think it will help our country. Compassion for all members. And from this place, we can take conscious action. We can take engaged Buddhism, which is we can then write our congressman, we can phone our representatives, we can find out the websites for these legal funds, and we can donate and send money. We can find out where there are rallies in Kansas City. We can find out where there are families. There are immigrant families in Kansas City so that we can take action here and now with real life living human beings. In this way, we are present. But when we sit and simply watch something that happened 5 days ago, 5,000 miles away, we are disengaged and we feel helpless. And then we bring that helplessness and fear into the world, and it does not help. So instead, feel it and then take conscious action and be present with the action you take. I really appreciate Question Sunday because it helps me as director to become more in touch with what's alive for the Sangha, what's in people's hearts. And in this way, we can share the practice and the teachings together on things that are a little bit more in context. So while Nien is collecting these cards, I'll have one or two that I'll read from last hour. What are your recommendations for deepening my practice? What books might you recommend? Videos, articles, or prayers? So what comes up for me on this card, first and foremost, what I sense in it is the seeking mind. The Buddha taught that we have everything we need right here, right now to awaken. Perfect, exactly as we are. There's nothing that you need to add to yourself, nothing to take away. Each moment is perfection. And so when we identify or take refuge in the seeking mind, then what comes up is seeking. The seeking mind is a beautiful thing and has a wonderful job. Its job is to seek, but we must understand that it seeks and will never find. That's not the seeking mind's job to find anything. Its job is to seek, and it's excellent at it. There's nothing wrong with books, videos, articles, magazines, workshops, but when we become mindful and we realize that we're constantly seeking and we can identify and be aware of seeking mind, we can then rest in knowing and being aware that we have identified with seeking mind. And know that everything that we need for awakening is with us right here and right now. And then from that place, we can joyfully and in a playful and curious nature look at books, look at magazines, look at articles, and so forth and so on. Thank you. All right. Thank you, honey. As I thumb through these cards, if I skip any cards, it may be because I cannot read it, or it may be that nothing comes up for me right here and right now, or perhaps I don't actually know quite what to say and would need to sit on it for a while or consult with my teachers or do a little bit of research. So as I move through these, simply know that's what's going on. What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness? A wonderful question, a teaching question. So, meditation and mindfulness can actually be something that is practiced constantly, steadily, always. They share this in common. How they are different is that in meditation, one can simply be totally present with what arises, or one can actually bring a contemplation to meditation, such as contemplating a feeling, an emotion, a phrase, a word, a mantra, a mudra. They call this single point meditation. So there is a doing quality to it. Mindfulness is a little bit more when we are interacting with the world, keeping 10% a mindfulness practice on what is arising for us. In the Christian tradition, this is a deeper, truer meaning of tithing. In the Buddhist practice, mindfulness is keeping just a little bit of awareness on what is arising for you, what is true for you at this moment. So meditation can be a practice, such as sitting in simple insight meditation, or it can become a single point where you're actually meditating with a mudra, you're meditating with a mantra, a chant, or a phrase, or you're simply bringing stillness and focus to the mind. But mindfulness is being aware of what is coming up at all times. I hope this helps. How can I slow down my busy brain during noble silence and stop thinking about the future? I love the presence in this question because you're aware that the nature of the mind is futuring. That right there is mindfulness. In noble silence and in our meditation, one of the reasons why we do it is because we can become aware of the nature of the mind. Futuring, pasting, thinking of sense pleasures. We begin to become aware of the nature of the mind, always active and busy. The lungs pull oxygen from the air. The liver cleans the blood. The tummy digests food and pulls nutrients from them. Well, the brain's job is to generate thoughts in the form of little electronic impulses. As Eckhart Tolle says, the mind is a wonderful slave, but a terrible master. When we identify with form and get caught up in the functioning of the body, such as the mind generating thoughts, and we become identified with that, then life can feel very much like a roller coaster, caught on the constant waves of, as the Buddha said, the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows and all the thoughts. But when we pull the camera back, and meditation helps us to do this, when we see the nature of the mind, that it generates thoughts, we can begin to look at the mind as we would the antics of an 8-year-old child. Simply thoughts bubbling up and arising, like clouds moving across the sky. After a while, when we don't actually hook onto a thought and then generate a thought after that and a thought after that and a thought after that, after a while, the mind actually begins to calm down because we're not feeding the thoughts, we're simply watching them arise. The practice will begin to live you. Practice is cumulative. A 5-minute sit in meditation will have a cumulative effect. There is no wasted time. Never. So we begin to see how, oh, the mind is futuring. Oh, the mind is planning. It's listing now. Oh, look at that. Now it's thinking of a mocha frappuccino. Labeling is a technique. Eventually, we simply become still, and the thoughts will bubble and arise, bubble away, arise and away, and we begin to see the nature of mind, and in truth, the true nature of existence, that it is impermanent. It is unsatisfactory and it is selfless. You're not doing it. The mind is rambling and chattering as it always has, but that's not who we are. We have feelings, but we are not our feelings. We have thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. We have emotions, we are not our emotions, and we have a body, but we are not our body. We are what is aware of all these things happening. Did you get another card, honey? Thank you. Oh, she says, I can help you read it if you need so, and I might. When knowing that the path ahead will destroy past creations and so greatly affect people I care deeply for, what is my responsibility to them? Let me read this again. When knowing that the path ahead will destroy past creations and so greatly affect people that I care deeply for, what is my responsibility to them? The first thing to do is to feel that. What comes up for me is, and I will use as an example, some of the current political policies of taking over public lands and parks. So when I read this question, that's what comes up for me, because I have felt it as park lands are being given away to corporations and things. The people that I love and care deeply for may not have an area to go to. Or this same situation may be applicable to art, air quality, water quality. So first thing in this question is to feel that. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a saying, wisdom says that no one is suffering. Compassion says that it hurts anyway. So the first thing to do is to feel that. The Buddhist path is one of purification. The key teaching is wisdom, and wisdom is in the body. So we return to the body and we feel pain. The difference is liberation from suffering. The Buddha only taught one thing, and that is freedom from suffering. So when we go in and we feel the pain, when 10,000 acres of land is given away, it hurts. When water quality is being destroyed, coral reefs are vanishing and will no longer be there for our grandchildren, it hurts. Creation and destruction have always occurred, have always been going on. The difference is now with technology, we are visually seeing and hearing about all these things that are happening, and it hurts. But when you go back to the time of the Buddha, you were present with the pain. You didn't know of things that were occurring 5,000 miles away 2 weeks ago. Technology has brought that into our modern lives. When you were present with the pain and the suffering, you could respond as the Bodhisattva would respond, with compassion and love, doing what you are called to do right then and there. But when we are bombarded with visuals and headlines and articles and news reports of things occurring that are nowhere in our present vicinity, then we are made to feel helpless. And what arises is fear of being helpless, unable to control what's going on. Back in the time of the Buddha, what you would do is you would respond from love and you would help someone. You would bring food. You would help put out a fire. You would help someone to their feet who has fallen, but instead we are left in this modern day with a feeling of helplessness. So step one is to feel it. Once you feel it and you purify the sadness, you purify the grief, you are left with compassion for creation and destruction, for pain and suffering, for grief and loss, the same things that have been a part of this experience since the dawn of time. And from compassion, you can move to engaged Buddhism, to conscious activism. You take action, divine masculine. You have the courage to move forward and take action by writing letters, making phone calls, finding websites where you can send money to help. And you do that. But you don't do it from a place of fear. It's not us against them. Creation and destruction have always been going on. But because of technology now, you see so much more, and you feel that much more helpless. There are families in Kansas City that need your help now. There are organizations that you can access on the internet now. This is engaged Buddhism. This is taking action from a place of compassion because it's the right thing to do, not because there are bad people in charge. It's because your heart moves you to action. This is what I feel is important to do. So I send money to the Sierra Club. I contact the local Sierra Club and I join and I march. Not because I'm angry, because my heart moves me to do so. What do you recommend for someone who is just starting out? Meditation is really hard for me. Any manageable techniques that are good for starters? I love this. The first thing that I'd like to share with you is that you're not a starter. You have been on this path for probably many years in this realm, and who knows how many lifetimes before. However, you may be just now awakening to your path, and this is a cause for great joy. You are awakening to your path. You are becoming aware of your path. Welcome home. And in the spirit of the question, as Thich Nhat Hanh put it, there is no path to peace. Peace is the path that is laid out before you. And yes, there are many wonderful techniques for people who are beginning meditation. Everything from sitting meditation to walking meditation to lying down to chanting, single point meditation where you focus on a candle, mala beads where each bead is a breath or a chant. There are many wonderful teachers. I am so excited for you. I hope you get to taste them all. Each one will become a depth of practice, a tool in your kit. Every person you meet will become your teacher. It is a marvelous journey, this journey of awakening. could you help me?
I began my practice some years ago by reading Sharon Salzberg's Loving Kindness. It struck me as time. It's true. I read all I could find and practiced metta without a Sangha for several years. Now my practice has evolved, and I've had a Sangha and a teacher or two. But when I meditate, I still practice metta. Focus on the breath eludes me. Is it just habit energy? Does it matter? And does it matter that she focuses on metta rather than being able to go into the breath? Is it a distraction or a practice? Is it a distraction or a practice?
Thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, a wonderful question. And the practice has a way of taking care of itself. The spirit of the question that you ask, what comes up for me is that I sense an energy moving away from the metta and the breath because you asked it. When we sit in meditation, and as insight meditation matures, whatever comes up becomes practice. But there are many tools and there are many techniques. And another thing that comes up for me is that with the time spent with practice and the depth of your practice and the many things that you have tried in working with Sangha, there is a trying or a seeking essence to this question. And so therefore, I return to that seeking mind and the realization that there is nothing at all wrong with what's happening in your practice and in your meditation. But I also understand the spirit of the question, which is there something else? Yes, there are many things. Try them all. Play with them all. The fact that the breath meditation is elusive, move to a different meditation. Explore how it's elusive. Metta practice is a wonderful practice, and is actually, I have an article at home, they're actually showing some scientific benefits where they're studying metta practice or loving kindness practice. It is a marvelous practice, but also it can be, and this gets to the crux of the question, a doing. And what comes up for me is, I wonder if you stopped doing and we're just present with what comes up for you. Stop and just stay with stillness, stay with being. Without mantra, without anything that causes doing, explore insight meditation and look at the deeper core essence of the question, which is seeking and wondering and questioning. And sit with that as opposed to any kind of a technique. And I say that because of the years of experience behind that. Getting more to core insights than techniques.